Okay, the cosine rule is just a formula which can be used for two scenarios. Okay, one, if you are given two sides and an angle between them, then you have to calculate the side opposite the given angle. Okay? So you must given two sides, and the angle which is provided, or the angle which will be provided, must be opposite, okay, the side which is not given its length. Okay, so like in this case, you have a triangle ABC. If angle A is given, then it means that the length of AB and the length of AC must be given, but BC will be unknown. So two sides and a given angle, right? It's very rare to have a case where you have got the cosine rule and you are given two angles. Generally, you'll be given one angle and the two sides which form that angle. That's the most common case. So maybe if you want, you can call this one case one. That's the first case, and that's the most common one. So we use the cosine rule to calculate the length of a side, which is opposite a given angle. Okay? Remember, with the sine rule, you will always be given, there are two cases as well. You can have two sides given and one angle. Alright? And then you are supposed to calculate the angle which is opposite one of the two angles. Or you can be given two sides and one angle. So you can have two angles one side, or you can have two sides, one angle. Okay? Now, with the cosine rule, you always get one angle and two given sides as the first and the most common case. The second case now, which is not very common, this one here, examiners don't like it. Okay, so far, I haven't seen a recent metric paper where they tested on case number 2. So with case number 2 now, no angle will be given. The three sides must be given. And then you'll be asked to calculate any one of the three angles. Like for example, you can be asked to calculate the sides of angle A if all the sides are given. You can use the cosine rule. Now in a case like that, you can't use the sine rule. Okay? Remember, to use the sine rule, you must be given two sides and an angle. Or you must be given two angles and a side. That's for the sine rule. This is for the sine rule. Now, when you are not given any angle, but you are given three sides, you can never be able to do that question unless you use the cosine rule. Otherwise, you will get stuck forever. Yes?
So, is this sine encompass in circle geometry with angles that
Yes, yes. So after this now, we'll do application questions. Even in analytical geometry, there are some cases where they integrate now all the topics, including this one. Okay? Remember, we did angle of inclination, remember? You remember that?
Yes.
From now on, after this topic, you can get a question under analytical geometry which may ask you to determine the area of a triangle after finding the angle of inclination. Okay? Yes. It will be application time now. Okay? After this topic, you will have more knowledge in terms of calculating the length of sides, the size of angles. Alright? So with the sine rule, if you are given all three sides, you cannot use it. That's where you need the cosine rule. Alright? Also, in a case like case 1 here, where one angle is given and the two sides which form it are also given, you can't use the sine. Okay? You can only use the sine rule if you have got these two cases. That's when you use the sine. Okay? I think you understand better when you start practice. That's when you can understand it. Right now, with case number 2, the whole idea, okay, before I move on to case number 2 as well, I need to explain this now. The formula for cosine rule, generally, okay, you can write it as a squared equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Don't worry, I'll talk about its proof on the next page. But the proof comes from application of the theorem of Pythagoras. Okay, remember, your distance formula comes from the theorem of Pythagoras. The cosine rule also comes from the theorem of Pythagoras. Right? There is also another proof which also uses the distance formula to do this proof. I'm not going to talk about that proof. You can read your mind action series. Okay? Right? So, if you want to calculate a side, like in this case, you want to calculate this side, and remember, it will be small a, that will be small b, that will be small c. If angle A is given, then BC must not be given. Therefore, the formula will be A squared equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times the cosine of A. Remember, this angle here is related to the side which is not given. They must be opposite each other. Always. And on the right-hand side, the other two sides, you must add them, that is, they are squares, then you subtract 2 times the product of the given sides. Okay, I'll show you on the next page. Then another case now is where all 3 sides are given, but no angle, which is case number 2. If you want to calculate the angle, you have to make the cos A, the cos B, the cos C the subject. Now this case is a little bit more complex. Right? Now with the proof, if you want to prove that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine of a, you draw a triangle like this triangle ABC, then you draw a perpendicular from vertex C such that it will be perpendicular to your base AB. The reason why I draw that perpendicular is to create 2 triangles that are right angled, and then you have to use those 2 right angled triangles. So first, you start with the bigger triangle, in this case here, triangle BCD. You write the theorem of Pythagoras for that triangle. Okay, it's going to be a squared plus bd squared plus h squared. Now your bd obviously is from here to there. But you can also write bd in terms of this small letter c. Okay, so your bd is going to be C minus AD. Now, the fact that we end up talking about AD, it means later on we need to consider triangle ACD. So, theorem of Pythagoras for the big triangle BCD. Then we replace this BD by an expression in terms of C and AD. And that expression is going to be C minus AD. Once we have got this expression AD, we need to eliminate it later on using triangle ACD. It's not difficult. Then you simplify using your knowledge of algebra, that is algebraic expressions. You remove brackets, you simplify, you get to this point. Once you get to that point now, okay, please be aware that simplifying from here, from this step here, right, it's algebra, grade what? 9 and 10. Okay, it's just removing the brackets. Then, when you get to this point now, the problem will be now need to eliminate that AD. Because the formula only has small letters, okay, based on the formula we got there. It has got small letters. So we need to eliminate this AD. To eliminate it, we need to come up with a formula from triangle ACD, which connects AD and angle A. And that formula involves trigonometric ratios from grade 10. So the cosine of an angle is equal to the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is going to be B. So it's going to be cos A is equal to AD divided by BD. That's from grade 10, by the way. So you've got that. Then you make AD the subject. You substitute that expression here. And the expression you put here is going to be B cos A. And then you come up with the formula. So when you do it, it is based on what? what reference angle do you have, and its corresponding side. And the proof is examinable. Okay? I'll write here examinable. Okay? It can come in an examination. Prove that a squared is equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos 8. Now, sometimes they'll give you a hint by giving a diagram, or as teachers will give you a diagram, that just to guide you a little bit. And then you are done. Okay? So it's not complicated. But so here, it's very basic. It's just application of the basics. So let's start with number one. Let me just duplicate this question. All right, let's start with the first one. So with the first one, I would suggest that you label it using the small letters. So that length there is going to be B, and this one here is going to be small a, that one will be small c. Okay? What are we given? We are given angle what? B. And we have to calculate the size of x, which is equivalent to small b. So if I write my formula for cosine rule, it will be b squared is equal to a squared plus c squared minus 2, now minus 2ac cosine of b. Okay? Remember what I said earlier? This angle and the length you want to calculate, they must be on opposite sides of the equation. Alright? Then the two lengths that are given, you square the first one, you square the second one, then you subtract the twice the product of the two. That's all. Okay? So let's substitute. So remember, our x is equal to b, so I can put here x squared. Our a is 14, c is 8, minus 2 times 14 times 8 times cos of 64. Now, I just want to encourage you that since we have got a squared term on the left, okay, don't put this information in the calculator yet. What you do, take square root on both sides, then you put whatever is inside in the calculator at once. Okay? There is no need to put this in the calculator twice. Okay, I'll show you just now. I've got the calculator. Right? So then you check out your calculator. Easily do the calculation nicely without rounding off. So you just put the square root. Can you look on the board? Look on the board. There is no reason why you have to look down there. We had an opportunity to laugh and then we relaxed a little bit. Now let's carry on. Okay, so there is no reason why you can simplify in this step here. And then you write down the answer. There's no reason. There's no mark for that. So make x the subject, substitute when everything is inside the square root. So it will be 14 squared. You must be a master of your calculator. 14 squared plus 8 squared. Right? Minus. Okay. I'm sorry. I clicked something which is not which I was not supposed to. Okay, minus, I think I clicked equal sign by mistake. So it will be 2. Well, what I suggest here, put times 14 times 8, then times cos. Now, cos of what? Cos of 64. So you put 64 there. Then you close the bracket. Then you press equal. Okay? Now, that answer there, can you pay attention? That answer there, that's the final answer. Okay? It's not exaggerated. So you round it off to 2 decimal places. That will be 12.72. Okay, so allow me to write it here. So, So the answer is 2 marks. Get your second mark. If it's 3 marks, then there has to be a write down an answer from the calculator, then you move on again, you write x equal to, and then you do it again. No, there's no need. You can do it that way. Right? Then the second one, you do the same. So this will be small g, that will be small I, then small h. You want to calculate x, which is equivalent to I, so write I squared will be equal to h squared plus g squared, or let's say g squared plus h squared, minus 2gh cosine of I. That's the cosine rule, right? Now, what you want to calculate is x, so it will be x squared. Now I'm going to substitute. So 9,2 squared plus 11,3 squared minus 2 times 9,3 times 11,3 cosine of 27 degrees. Then you take square root on both sides. There is no need to put this in the form 9,2 squared plus 1, there is no need. So say 9,2 squared plus 11,3 squared minus 2 times 9,3 times 11,3 cosine. Okay, let me remove that. So this will be cosine of 27. Okay, then you take out your calculator. You have to be good of the calculator. Okay, square root option, and let's put that. So 9,2 squared. Okay. 9,2 squared plus 11,3. Please, just bear with me. Something is wrong with my laptop. Right? Square minus and 2 times 9,2 times 11,3 times cosine. Please be aware that this is the cosine rule. Don't never make a mistake of putting sine in there, because I have seen it happening. Okay, so it will be cos, not sine. Cos of what? 27. Okay, then close the bracket. Press equals. Right? That's the answer there. So it's 5,20. So this will be 5,20 units. That's what x is. Okay, it's very straightforward. All right. Okay, can you? All right. So here, first thing, can I have your attention? First thing, you must label your three sides. Generally, I prefer the small letters. So this will be small n, small m, and then p. Now, we want to calculate this angle theta, which is also equivalent to p. Okay? So, there is a relationship there. So if I write my cosine rule to be p squared is equal to m squared plus n squared minus 2mn cosine of p. Yes. Okay, generally in grade 11 we don't give it. But when you write metric next year, this formula will be provided. Okay? And why are you asking about that? Because you must have the capacity to memorize that. Huh? What? Yeah, but not all of them. Not all of them. Okay, in physics you get some formula, in maths you also get some, but not all. Alright, so pay attention. What are we supposed to calculate? We need to calculate that P. Okay, that angle. So if you use your knowledge of solving equations, you can make cos P the subject. How? You take this term here, you can do it quickly. Take this term to the left hand side. Can you pay attention to this? Pay attention this side here. Pay attention. I gave you an opportunity to do the question. So you need to look here. You take this term to the left. Alright? Then you take this p squared to the right. Okay? So I'm gonna do that. So everything I'm talking about is grade 10, subject of the what? Formula. Remember last year you did change of subject. You need to know that way. Either you can substitute and then simplify, or you can do what I'm doing. So I can write this as 2mn cosine of p is equal to m squared plus n squared minus p squared. Then, if you want to make cos p the subject, if the coefficient is 2mn, obviously you have to divide both sides by 2mn. So, cosine of p would be equal to m squared plus n squared minus p squared over 2mn. Okay? Now I'm smiling, so I can go to the next page. Now I'm going to substitute the p by theta. So I can now write cos theta is equal to m. What is m? M is 78. Okay? So this will be 78 squared plus, okay, m is 78 times 75 squared, so plus 75 squared, right? Minus p, what is p? So that will be 55 squared. This is all over 2 times 78 times 75. Now, you can put all this in the calculator. But before you do, make theta the subject. Remember, from your knowledge of trigonometric ratios, what do we call this, all this? What is the name given to that? It's a ratio. Okay? Everything on the right hand side is a ratio. Okay? You don't have to stress. So this will be theta equal to shift cosine of 78 squared and 75 squared. All over 2 times 78 times. Okay.